Rangers fans, what on earth is happening to our club? Strap in, because this is going to rile you up. Hamza Igamane, one of our star players, has basically come out and said he's dreaming of a move to a big club in Europe. Is that where we are now? A stepping stone for players to polish their boots before moving on. And if that wasn't enough to get your blood boiling, the Union Bears have unleashed absolute fury, tearing into the board and players, saying sacking Clement alone isn't enough to fix the mess we're in. They're demanding real change, top to bottom. And honestly, can you blame them? We're 15 points behind Celtic, for crying out loud. Meanwhile, transfer talks flying around, but are we actually getting anyone? Gelhardt, Mai, World Cup winner? Or are the board too busy counting pennies while the rest of us watch this season slip away? It's time to face some hard truths about where Rangers are heading. Stick with me, this is about to get explosive. So, Hamza Igamane's making eyes at a move away, eh? The lad's been banging them in with 11 goals this season. Fair play to him. But now it seems he's already got his head turned towards bigger pastures. He's dreaming of pulling on Morocco's national shirt and heading off to one of Europe's big clubs. Fair enough, ambition's not a crime, but let's not pretend this doesn't sting a bit. You'd think he could be a bit more subtle about it, though, especially with Clement trying to slam the door on any January departures. Now, Clement's standing his ground, saying Igamane isn't for sale, and honestly, that's the right call. You don't just let a young striker in cracking form waltz out the door mid-season, but it's a bit of a wake-up call for Rangers, isn't it? 15 points behind Celtic, still in the Europa League, but hardly setting the world alight. Players like Igamane are looking around and thinking, can I do better? And you can't really blame him, can you? Here's the real rub, though. If Rangers don't get their act together, and soon, lads like Igamane won't just be dreaming of a move, they'll be packing their bags, and we'll be left scrambling, trying to replace that quality with bargain bin transfers. So here's one for you lot to chew on. If a player openly hints at wanting to leave for a bigger club, should we even bother keeping him around? Or is it time to show him the door and find someone who bleeds blue? Well, the Union Bears haven't held back, have they? That statement's got more bite than a winter's day at Rangers. They've gone for the throat of both the board and the squad, and honestly, you can see why. Slipping 15 points behind Celtic after giving them a proper pasting a fortnight ago, that's a slap in the face for any supporter, let alone the diehards who live and breathe Rangers. And sacking Clement might feel inevitable now, but the Bears are bang on. He's not the root of the problem. They've had a revolving door of managers in recent years, and yet the same cracks keep showing. You've got to wonder if this is about more than just tactics on the pitch. The board's been accused of hiding behind the managers, blaming them for failure while quietly dodging their own accountability. And let's not even start on the senior players. Getting rid of managers doesn't mean a thing if they keep putting in performances that wouldn't pass muster at a kickabout in Bella Houston Park. The Bears have hit a nerve with that line about loyalty. Rangers fans are some of the most dedicated you'll find anywhere, but loyalty isn't a blank check for endless failure. This club's built on pride and ambition, two things that feel in short supply at the moment, according to that statement. So here's one for you lot. If the board and players are failing Rangers as badly as Union Bears claim, do we need to wipe the slate clean and rebuild from the ground up? Or is this just another overreaction from frustrated fans? So the Sami MMA deal's off, is it? Typical. Just when you think Rangers might be addressing one of the glaring issues, it turns out the lad's staying put at Dinamo Zagreb under Fabio Cannavaro. Fair enough if the gaffer wants him to stay, but where does that leave us? Down to our last few plasters to patch up a defense that's being held together with sticky tape and hope. We're in a right pickle at the back, aren't we? Sutar, Balogun, Casanwirjo, and now Sterling, all out. The poor physio must be working overtime. We've been forced into makeshift solutions, and while it's admirable to see players stepping in, You can't build a solid defense on adaptability alone. Champions League experience like MIE's would have been gold dust, and you'd think having Igamane here might have smoothed the lad's transition too, but nope, no dice. Now, the transfer teams got to pull their finger out and find someone else sharpish. January's notoriously tricky for signings, and we don't exactly have a stellar record of late, do we? Still, it's obvious we can't limp through the season with this defensive crisis. If we're serious about challenging on all fronts and making sure Celtic don't keep stretching that gap, then action's needed now. Here's one for you to stir the pot. With the board dragging their feet and injuries piling up, do we risk throwing the season away by failing to act in January? Or is it time to call them out for neglecting the squad's backbone? Well, there's another one slipping through the cracks. Joe Gelhardt's looking less likely for Rangers, and not because of lack of interest, but because of those dreaded financial constraints. Seems like we're shopping for champagne on a lager budget again, doesn't it? A loan deal with an option to buy would have been a tidy bit of business, especially for a young, promising striker like Gelhardt. But if the cash isn't there, it's no use dreaming. Leeds are playing it smart, though. Why settle for a cut-price deal with Rangers when there are clubs with deeper pockets circling the lad? They're banking on that auction-style interest to bump up the price or snag better terms. Can't say I blame them. Football's as much a business as it is a sport these days, but it doesn't do us any favors, does it? For Rangers, this whole thing just shines a light on the financial pinch we're in. We can't compete with clubs throwing money around, and while we're scratching about for a deal, others are snapping up the talent. Gelhardt's young, hungry, and itching to prove himself, exactly the type of player we need. But if the board can't loosen the purse strings, it's no wonder we're struggling to keep pace with Celtic. Here's one for you to mull over. If the club's finances are this tight, should Rangers prioritise short-term fixes just to scrape by? Or is it time to rethink the entire transfer strategy before we're left miles behind? Well, here we are, halfway through January, and Rangers still haven't made a single signing. Meanwhile, the fan base's patience is wearing thinner than a pie crust on match day. It's the same old story, isn't it? The squad's crying out for reinforcements, especially at the back, and yet we're moving at the pace of a Celtic fan trying to explain their European record. Now, the talk of Cyril Desires potentially heading off is intriguing. The lad cost £4.5 million, and let's be honest, he hasn't exactly been the revelation we were hoping for. If moving him on opens up some funds, it's probably worth considering. But shipping him out means we'll need a new centre forward, sharpish, and the way things are going, I wouldn't hold my breath. On the defensive front, Ryan Porteous is being floated as an option. He's a known quantity in Scottish football, no-nonsense physical and left-sided. Exactly the kind of steady presence we need. But Watford's Tom Cleverley seems keen to squash the rumours, which makes you wonder if this is another dead end. Still, Porteous wouldn't be a bad shout if he's genuinely available, and unlike some flashy imports, he wouldn't need a map to navigate the Premiership. Then there's Clement's comments. He's right to point fingers upstairs. How can he rebuild the squad when the board's dragging their heels? We're 15 points adrift of Celtic, for crying out loud. If this window doesn't deliver, it's going to get ugly. So here's the million-pound question. If the Rangers board can't deliver the signings Clement needs, should they face the same level of scrutiny as the managers and players? Or are we just stuck in an endless cycle of finger-pointing while Celtic pull further ahead? Well, Sasa ZELLA, a Serbian World Cup winning defender/midfielder, potentially rocking up at Rangers for what's being billed as a bargain move. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? The lad's versatile, experienced, and got a winning pedigree, just what the doctor ordered for a squad that's been limping along this season. But with German clubs sniffing around and a tight budget looming over every potential deal, you can't help but feel like this one's got almost signed, written all over it. Still, there's a lot to like about ZELLA. He's proven himself in Serbia, Greece, Spain, and Russia. Not exactly your typical journeyman. Almost 200 appearances for Partizan, a solid spell at CSKA Moscow, and a regular for Serbia in 2024. He's got the steel and experience to steady the ship in the middle of the park, and his ability to slot in at centre-back. That's a bonus we could seriously use with our injury crisis. The Europa League angle is a clever one, though. No Russian club can offer him European football right now, so that could tilt the scales in our favour. But let's not kid ourselves. Rangers aren't exactly waltzing into this deal with a blank check. It'll come down to whether the board can actually deliver, and if ZELLA fancies a proper scrap in Scotland over, say, a more lucrative offer elsewhere. Here's a juicy one for you. If ZELLA's such a perfect fit for Rangers, will the board's failure to secure him prove they're incapable of backing Clement's rebuild? Or is this just another case of punching above our weight in the transfer market? If you haven't seen yesterday's video yet, you're missing out. Explosive news about Rangers that'll leave every fan stunned. Go check it out now.